Yeah, I negotiated with them for nearly 2 years over Afghanistan, Al-Qaeda, and Iraq. So I've had a lot of up-close, detailed conversations with them. I've seen their national security strategy up close and talked to them about it for hours and hours and hours on end. What we've seen unfold makes no sense in terms of Iran's national security strategy. There's no benefit, there's no payoff from them pursuing this kind of hit against Al-Jubair, and it runs contrary to their entire national security strategy. So we have a plot but no rationale.
Does that make the allegations implausible, or are the allegations plausibly accusing the Iranians of something stupid?
Well, you know, any allegation is plausible, but I also served in the Bush administration in the lead up to the Iraq War, where I saw a lot of allegations come through paid informants like Ahmed Chalabi, and I raised questions about them inside the Bush administration, and everyone said, oh, but we know the nature of Saddam Hussein's regime, so even if it's stupid, they're so bloodthirsty, they would probably do it anyway. Well, here the questions really need to be asked again, and this time taken really seriously, because this would be such a significant departure for the Iranian government to be involved in something like this. It really warrants our toughest questions and scrutiny.
Well, let me ask you about one, I don't know if it's a parallel or not, but you say this makes no sense given their strategy. You think about the bombings in Buenos Aires back in 1994. 85 people killed. The Argentinian government blamed the Iranians for putting Hezbollah up to the job. It didn't make a lot of sense either, I guess, in some sense. Could this be the same kind of thinking that was behind that attack?
Well, that was a very specific, you know, to the extent that there was the linkage is clear. It was specifically tied to, according to Hezbollah, for the Israeli hit on the Hezbollah leader the year before. So there was a linkage to something that had happened. There's no linkage here to anything that had happened. For the Iranians, they've had a rivalry with the Saudis for a long time. In fact, between 1980 and 1988, during the Iran-Iraq War, the Iranians saw the Saudis as completely financing and paying for Iraq's war on Iran that cost 300,000 Iranians their lives. During that entire time, they didn't hurt a single Saudi citizen anywhere in the world. So the idea that today, because they're not getting along, somehow the Iranians are going to go and bomb the embassy or a restaurant where Al-Jubair is, it really makes no sense. And what it does is it actually distracts us from the reality and the strength of Iran's national security strategy, which is doing a good job for Iran, both in terms of protecting Iran and in terms of turning the balance of power in the Middle East very much in Iran's favor and very much against the United States. We're missing the real story here, which is that the balance of power in the Middle East is turning toward Iran and away from us.
That larger point aside, if what you're saying is true, there's still something extraordinarily odd about this. Is it a well-meaning mistake by the investigators who work for the Justice Department and the Obama administration, or is this an intentional fraud? If these allegations aren't true, why are they making them?
Well, I certainly, as an American, find it very hard to believe that there could be an intentional fraud. But I also served in the Bush administration when there was an intentional fraud in the manufacture of documents from Niger to show that Saddam Hussein had purchased yellow cake there. That was an intentional fraud. That wasn't a mistake. That wasn't reasonable analysts looking at the same material and coming to reasonable conclusions. There was an intentional fraud. So I think it really behooves us to look very carefully at the information that's being provided in the complaint, which, as a Harvard-trained lawyer, is pretty thin, and to ask really tough questions, have that information examined, and critically important, cross-examined, because we should not be going to war again on false pretenses.
Well, I think the question of war is far in the distance. I don't think reasonable people are really making that point from within the administration.
Well, but if the allegations are true, they are an act of war. If the allegations are true that the Iranian government ordered the murder of a diplomat, of an official of another country here in Washington, that has been a casus belli in other conflicts in history. So these are very grave allegations. And even though it's hard to imagine our country going to war again, we could be priming the pump here from going from virtual conflict, which we have now with Iran, to hot conflict. It can happen very quickly, and we should take it very seriously.
Okay, we're speaking carefully about the speculation we might have to explain these bizarre allegations, and knowing that we don't have more information than we've presented, you've talked about the possibility that these allegations have come from within the administration. Let me spin it another way.
I've never said that. I've never said the allegations came from anybody in the administration. All I'm saying is that when I worked in the Bush administration and they had manufactured documents from Niger showing that Saddam Hussein bought yellow cake there, those were manufactured documents. What I'm saying here is we should look very carefully at the information that's provided. I'm not alleging that anybody has fabricated it, but I think we have a precedent we have to take seriously.
Let me jump in with the other side of the coin, though. Could it be that rogue elements somewhere in Iran, rogue elements within the Quds Force, really did have this idea, thinking that either they'd end up killing the Saudi ambassador or they'd end up being discovered. But either way, for their own purposes, they want to perpetuate tensions with the United States. Even this plot, having been discovered, succeeds admirably at that. The question I'm asking you is, who gains if this plot really was either not serious or not there at all? Would there be elements in Iran that would gain from this discovery?
Nobody in Iran gains from this in any way, shape, or form. I think there is consensus across the board in terms of a national security strategy inside Iran. I've spoken to, over the years, a range of people inside the Iranian government. There is a consensus about their national security strategy. This would serve, I think, no one's interests inside Iran. I cannot foresee how this would serve someone's interest there. Now, it's certainly possible, like it is anywhere in the world, in any country in the world, that there could be a rogue element who wanted to do this. Of course, anything is plausible, anything is possible, but it makes no sense in terms of Iran's national security strategy. It benefits no one. The speculation that it benefits hardliners who are dead set against relations with the United States, that is something, honestly, I think plucked out of thin air from people who have never spoken to Iranian officials about their national security strategy or their security concerns.